Hi, this is Eddie Muller. We are back with another installment of Ask Eddie and Ann because I am here with my colleague, Ann Hockens, Director of Communication for the Film Noir Foundation. So how you doing, Ann?
I'm doing well. Thank you.
As people can probably tell, I have a bit of a sunburn. I was out today. It was a very warm day, and in my office this evening, it is hotter than the hinges of hell. So my answers will probably be shorter than usual tonight because, and Charlotte makes an appearance. I talked about the hinges of hell, and the guardian of those gates of hell showed up right on cue. Very nice. Nicely done, Charlotte.
She knows what hell is. Oh, please, not the couch.
Wow. She wants her close-up this week.
Yeah, she really does. She's in a mood.
Yeah,
okay,
nicely done. Go. Okay, a little nothing like a little cat butt for the audience. Very good. Yeah.
That's great, Charlotte.
Okay. Well, I've got lots of stuff to talk about this week, but we're going to wind it all into the conversation, I feel. So let's just get rolling.
Okay. And this is from someone else named Anne. I have recently converted to Noirism and might someday attend a Noir City festival. So tell me, what can I expect the dress code to be? Gentlemen can wear a suit and tie, but what about the ladies? I wonder if cocktail dresses are worn during the day or evening dresses. What is the level of formality? And must ladies' hats be removed during the film?
Funny question. There is no dress code. It's kind of interesting. You've been there since the start, Ann, and you know that it was just kind of an organic thing. In the first few years, people really didn't dress for the event.
Yeah.
And nobody asked them to. Nobody requested it. It was just a completely organic thing that people started dressing. But what's great about it is I don't feel like there's any kind of peer pressure on people who feel like they have to dress up or something to attend. And I don't feel that, I know that a lot of times when people who are really into vintage culture go out in public, they kind of get, people who don't dress up snicker at them and say, look at these people, what's with the costume,
Yeah.
But there's none of that at the Noir City Festival. And, it's really only San Francisco where people dress up. Seattle to some degree, but it's a percentage of the audience dresses up in San Francisco, but there's absolutely no pressure to do so. And having said that, I will say that Noir City audiences are the best dressed movie-going audiences in the world.
Yeah, they really are. And I know for me, like, on opening weekend, I always dress up, and I dress nights during the week, but last Sunday, I'm typically in sweats.
Oh yeah.
And so definitely it kind of breaks down, but that's a really fun part of the festival is just seeing these people because, and the ladies also do their makeup as well and their hair, it's not just like it's a complete look, and they're really stunning.
And it's fun because it's great for the folks who don't want to dress up.
Yeah.
To have it's a bonus that all these people look so great and they turn out, and yes, the women are spectacular. But it's funny, this question from Anne makes it sound like she's feeling a little pressure. Like, if I attend, how hard do I have to work to fit in? And the answer is not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all. If you want to, go right ahead. If you don't want to, it's perfectly fine.
And this one is from Phil. In your opinion, what is the single best year for the noir genre? Many people look at 1939 or 1968 for movies in general, but what noir for quantity or quality? And also, when can we expect Noir City 13?
Oh, that the annual Noir City 13 annual will be out this summer. I'm not exactly sure when. I think like late July, early August. I argue and contend, and I'm trying to get TCM to take this on, where the hosts all argue about what was the greatest year for movies, because mine will be 1950, which I think is better than 1939, because obviously there's film noir made in 1950 when there wasn't that many in 39. But you know, that was The Asphalt Jungle, Sunset Boulevard, All About Eve, Gun Crazy, you know, all these fantastic movies. In a Lonely Place was made in 1950. And, you know, Stephen Farber has a new book out that contends that 1962 was the best year for movies in Hollywood history. So here's the deal. I vote for 1950, obviously, but I will amend that by saying that 1949 was the peak year for film noir, because more noir movies were made in 1949 than any other year. So that was when it peaked. Then it like was perfected. More great ones were made in 1950, and then it started its decline after that.
Yeah, and I think for movies in general, I would have to look at releases. I would actually argue like 1928 or probably, yeah, around there, because just the peak of the silent film period was amazing.
Well, okay. People are very prejudiced toward the sound era when they talk about the greatest year for movies. But as you say, there were so many great silent films made right towards the end. But,
yeah, I mean, really, really stunning.
Well, obviously, I think my colleague Jacqueline Stewart would probably agree with you and vote for that as her year. You know, Ben would probably take, you know, like 1987 or something like that.
I don't know. I would guess he would pick something in the 1970s.
What year was Ferris Bueller's Day Off? That's probably.
And this is from Dave. Love Eddie's book, Dark City, and have had the new edition on pre-order. Thank you. I would like to ask Eddie for his list of the top books on film noir, especially noir's history.
That one sitting right there that you can buy coming next month. I like Foster's books, Foster Hirsch's books, Film Noir, The Dark Side of the Screen, and also his book on neo-noir is very good. That's sensational. I mean, the encyclopedia was like the first book on film noir that I owned, right? Silver and Ursini's Film Noir Encyclopedia. I like the Big Book of Noir. I don't even know if that's in print anymore, but my late friend Ed Gorman and the great Lee Server and Martin Greenberg edited that book, which is a lot of really terrific essays about film noir. It's not the most it's not like a history of the genre type thing as much as it's just a compendium of really good essays about a lot of different aspects of noir. I like Art Lyons's book about B noir, Death on the Cheap is fun. I like Barry Gifford's book about noir, The Devil Thumbs a Ride, which I think that was the title of the first edition, and I think Barry had it published again under the title Out of the Past, something in film noir. But that's Barry Gifford, you know, the novelist, poet, the guy who writes everything. He wrote a nice book about noir as well. So, you know, those are ones that I have fond memories of reading and that I got a lot of stuff out of. So those are the ones I'll go with.
And sorry. Also, who are the authors writing on film, especially film history, that Eddie and Anne would recommend?
Who are the writers?
Yeah.
They're all in the Noir City magazine.
Good
Everybody who writes for the Noir City magazine, and I am not blowing smoke when I say that.
No,
I mean, I think that Imogen Sarah Smith is right now my favorite writer on film.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that she didn't really begin with the Noir City magazine, but we really started publishing a lot of her stuff early on. I mean, she'd already written her book on Buster Keaton when you know we came upon her. But she's fantastic, and now, you know, she does all kinds of work for Criterion, and she's become a real presence in the film criticism scene. But, you know, she's a loyalist, so she always comes back to write for us, which I love. And I think Jake Hinkson is a tremendous writer, great novelist, and really wonderful writer on film. the magazine is so full of really accomplished writers writing about noir because they love it, that, those are the people that I'm just so happy that they write for the foundation and for us, because to me, they're the best.
How do you get the magazine, Eddie?
You can, if you donate $20 to the Film Noir Foundation, you can get a year's subscription to the magazine. And lo and behold, the big news, Anne, is that coming very soon, like right now, there will be a print edition of the magazine, because that magazine was always done as an e-magazine, an electronic magazine. So we would send you, a PDF, an interactive PDF, which was so cool because it had links to film clips and all kinds of stuff embedded in the magazine. But a lot of people want to have a physical magazine. We cater to old-fashioned people.
Yeah.
And they wanted a print edition as well. So we are going to start doing that, which is separate from the donation to the foundation. So $20 gets you the e-magazine, but if you want the print magazine, you have to buy it separately, and then it's a print on demand thing that is actually mailed to you. And I've seen our test issues, and they're terrific. It's fantastic. It's a magazine, but you have to buy that separately. So that when that is ready, you will find that on the filmnoirfoundation.org website and the Noir City website. And then there will be a new website dedicated just to the magazine. So, and that'll obviously be, I think it's noircityemag.com or something like that. Don't take my word for it, but stay tuned. I'll have all the details, but I'm very excited about it.
Yeah, and if you do donate to the Film Noir Foundation, $20 or more to get the electronic magazine, make sure you sign up on our email list, because otherwise we won't be able to send you the links to download the PDF.
Yes, it is necessary that we have your email address. But I promise you, we won't pester you the way politicians pester you once you donate money.
Yeah, we don't send out that. We do a monthly, we do a monthly newsletter, and in that newsletter is when, that's how we request our questions for Ask Eddie. So that's another nice thing about signing up on our email list and getting our newsletter, is that way you can send questions to us.
Right. You will hear from us every once in a while, but I guarantee you will not hear from us every day. Like certain people who send me emails that are just, begging for money every single day.
Yeah. And Eddie mentioned the series of books on the major studios, the Story of series, and I noticed that they are all still available. Could you rank that series by quality from the must-haves and the nice-to-haves, or whatever other criteria you feel appropriate?
I cannot do that because they are all the same. That was kind of the point. They are standardized. There's a standard format for all those books. So it's the Warner Brothers story, the RKO story, the MGM story, the Fox story, and they all are the same format. They go decade by decade with a big essay at the beginning of that chapter about the fortunes of that studio in that decade. And then it contains every capsules of every film made in each individual year at the studio. And it gives you background and lets you know, like, was the film a success? Was it, I mean, the individual stuff about each film is not deep. It's nothing like what I do on Noir Alley or anything, but it's really, really great and very handy as a research tool to have that complete set at hand, because it lets you know the context in which the films were made. Like, the RKO story is, the 1940s is just a tumultuous thing where it's changing hands and the heads of the studios are changing. So when I want to talk about a certain film, I can reference that to know, who was the head of production at the studio when that film was being made. It's so they're very useful. But no, I don't recommend one over the other. So I would just say, you know, whatever your favorite studio is, get that one and see how you like it, and then see if you want to get all the rest of them. I have two copies. I have 2 copies of the MGM story. If you want one, I'll sell it to you.
This is from Larry. Hey, Eddie, big film noir fan here in North Carolina. If you were going to introduce several young people in this era of movies and film noir particularly, what would be your top 5 or 7 film noir movies would you start with as a way to get them interested in watching these movies? I think it's critical that we try to lure these younger audiences, 40 and under, to see these film movies if they are going to survive. Thank you so much for sharing your love of film noir.
You're very welcome. I love that. 40 and under. We got to get the ones that are 40 and under. Well, that was a long time ago that I qualified for that group. That's a good question. You know, I mean, it's, people ask that a lot. Like, what would you recommend for people who don't understand film noir or want to know what it is? And I always say Double Indemnity and Out of the Past are the first 2 movies. But this person is asking something very specific about how do you attract young people to watch these movies. And I have done this because I have, you know, been a guest in many high school and college classes that aren't necessarily film classes. I've gone into like American history classes, you know, art classes, sometimes specifically film, but it's really interesting. And it is a challenge to get younger people interested, but it's been very rewarding and very gratifying for me. It's fairly obvious what the main ones are, but I will qualify it by saying this, based on my experience. Young teenage boys are a hard sell, especially when you're in the classroom environment, because there's a lot of peer pressure, and they pick on other boys if those guys show interest in the films. It's like, what are you, gay? Why do you like this stuff? You know, and they're so horrible. The teenage women, the young women, are much more attracted to it and are drawn to it for, I'm not entirely sure what the reasons are, but they get it, you know, because women mature earlier than guys. And so, like, I've gone into classes where the teacher said, you know, we showed Sunset Boulevard last week, and we're going to talk about it this week. We'd like you to participate. And all the questions were asked by the girls in the class.
Yeah.
None by the guys. They did not understand the movie. The girls understood the movie. They understood Norma Desmond. They understood Joe Gillis. The guys had no idea what that movie was about. Same thing. Like, young women will understand In a Lonely Place. Young guys do not get that movie. They don't understand it. So for guys, you have to kind of, I know it sounds like I'm generalizing horribly, but I've been there. I've done this. I've seen it with my own eyes, you know? So the guys have to have a role model. So they need to see somebody that they want to be. So you got to show them Robert Mitchum, and you got to show them the tough guys, and then they'll kind of be attracted to that. The other thing I found was, like, when I showed Double Indemnity, I would show scenes from it, and I would say, what do you think this scene is about? Right. And I'd show them the motorcycle, get down off your motorcycle and write me a ticket thing, and with the anklet and all that. And, you know, I gave a star to the guy who said he wants to her. And I'm like, yes, that is, you get it. Right. I mean, and now do you think these old movies are corny? Because that's exactly what your grandparents were watching and doing, you know, your great grandparents now, I guess. So if the movie has sex in it, that's good. That's a good place to start with young people, because it's a way to show them, like, this is how it had to be done back then. You couldn't just show it. You had to allude to it. You had to suggest it. You had to be subtle about it. And that actually really hooks young people. It truly engages them. when they think there's like a code to crack. And you know, so I've used that quite a bit, and kids are very surprised to learn about the production code. Like, you couldn't show things on screen. They just thought people were corny back then.
Yeah.
They didn't realize that, no, people were so randy back then that they had to impose a code to keep them under control, you know?
Yeah.
So, you know, that's the thing. I would say probably you can pick any noir movie from 1944, and you've got like 4 or 5 right there that you can start with. Phantom Lady, Woman in the Window, Murder My Sweet, you know, Double Indemnity, Laura, all those movies. That's like all from one year. So if you want to talk about like noir as a movement, it's kind of cool to say, look, all these movies came out in one year.
Yeah.
Right. And then that's a good jumping off point for like, why did that happen? What was that all about? So that's the way I answer that question. Sex sells, you know, teenagers want that, and you can show it to them without having their parents, you know, write letters complaining, because it's like, I didn't show anything. There was no nudity. There was no bad language, but yes, it was all about sex.
Yeah. Okay, this one is from Gary. Chicago Deadline, starring Alan Ladd and Donna Reed, does not seem to be available on DVD. I can't find it. Can your foundation do something about this?
Don't I wish?
Yeah.
The reason that movie is so hard to find is because that is a classic case of a movie slipping between the legal cracks, because it's a Paramount film, and at some point several decades ago, Universal Pictures bought the Paramount Film Library, and it was all based on films that were in production. I can't remember, but I think the date was like August 15th, 1948. If the movie was in production on that date, it would then belong to Universal. And in production after that date remained with Paramount. And nobody has ever decided exactly when Chicago Deadline went into production. So it's weird, because the only print I've ever seen is at the UCLA Film and Television Archive, and it's like Paramount has it, but it's argued that no, it actually belongs to Universal, but Universal doesn't actually have a print of it. So it's one of those things. So, and the reason the Film Noir Foundation doesn't get involved is because there's no way we can battle legally with these two entities. The movie is not in the public domain. It belongs to either Paramount or Universal, but they don't have a serious reason to get this, because it's not going to make them any money, you know. So why are they going to spend all of that money on legal fees to untangle this? You know, I honestly, I can't even remember when I've shown the movie, and I'm loath to show it again, because that's the print, right, that I show that's at UCLA. And if we damage it, we're damaging the only print, right? So it's complicated, but that's as much as I can say about that right now.
And this one is from Steve. Who would you consider our great noir poets? Not sure if you read poetry. I imagine you do. For myself, I'm thinking Charles Bukowski or Mary Carr. The city feeds on beauty, it starves, for it breeds it. Coming home after midnight to my deserted block with its famous high subway rat count, I heard a tenor exhale pure, longing down the brick canyons. The steaming moon opened its mouth to drink on high. It's Mary Carr.
Okay, Mary Carr.
Picture that as a voiceover.
Okay, I got you. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's funny, because Bukowski, you know, Bukowski is Bukowski. I don't know that I would call him noir necessarily. He's his own, you know, demi-monde of poetry. But there are a lot of people who do this. I know that there was a nice collection of poetry years ago, like when I was first starting writing about this stuff, I think he had already written this book of poetry. A guy named Michael Shepler wrote a book called Angel's Flight that was a collection of poetry that was really pretty good. And there are a number of poets who are inspired by noir. Let's put it that way. I don't know that they're, oh my God, I wish I could remember this. There was a lovely poet in Los Angeles who actually wrote a noir poem that was dedicated to me.
Oh, wow.
And now I'm gonna blow it because I can't remember her name. Monica, I think it was it Monica O? Anyway, it was called Janet Leigh is Afraid of Jazz. I believe that was the title of the poem. We should look it up online. Anyway, and there's this woman in Los Angeles, Suzanne Loomis, who is very deep into the LA poetry scene, and she's a huge noir fan. You know, and there are other poets that I read where I see a noir influence, but I don't think they would say themselves that they write noir poetry.
Yeah.
So, and there's one that I know of that I read years ago that I really liked, an African-American woman poet. And I picked up the book. I wish I could remember it now. I picked up the book because the cover had a photograph by Ouija, was the cover of the book. And I said, oh, that sounds interesting. And then it was pretty noir. There were pretty noirish elements to it. And I really enjoyed that. So yes, and I do read poetry, and you know, I have a book of Robert Lowell poems by the side of my bed, and I know a number of poets, and but I don't limit my poetry reading to noir. Let's put it that way.
No. Okay, and this is from Michael. I had a question for you about a film. Can't quite remember the name of it. It's an obscure, surreal, black and white noir, I believe from the 50s. Very strange cult film. The image I remember is a severed head rolling down the street. Does this ring a bell? Know the name of it?
I find it hard to believe that in the 50s there would be a severed head rolling down the street in a movie. But I don't know, but I'm going to say that this is Dementia, you know, or Daughter of Horror, which is like the most noirish horror film that would be like, that would have imagery like that in it. Yeah. So that's just my shot in the dark. I honestly don't remember if there was a severed head rolling down the street or anything. Or maybe they're thinking of Carnival of Souls or something like that, that is more horror than noir. But when people always ask me these questions of all I remember is this one image,
yeah,
I always wonder, like, well, then if you only remember one image, how do you know that it's a film noir or not? You know, because your memory of the movie isn't so good.
Yeah.
So it could look like a film noir, or it's in black and white, or, you know, I don't mean to be, you know, negative about this in any way, but it is funny when people say, you know, it was a rain-swept street. And like this car came around the corner really fast and hit a telephone pole. And this guy, you know, cracked his head in the windshield. Do you remember what that movie was?
I know. Excuse me. This is from Richard. Eddie, do you have any information on why Charlton Heston doesn't use a fake Mexican accent in the movie, meaning Touch of Evil? Even with the makeup, we have trouble seeing him as Mexican. Keep up the good work. And I actually know the answer to that.
Well, share it with us then, Ann.
Okay. Charlton Heston, I recommend this autobiography highly. This is like one of my all-time favorite autobiographies. And after I finished it, I had seen Ben-Hur in 70mm. So I wrote Mr. Heston a letter, and he wrote me back.
Fantastic.
A really, really great letter. And also sent me an autographed photo, which is actually up in my bedroom. Okay, so.
That's awesome.
Yeah, he was really nice. Not only that, but I got it like a month after I wrote him, and he actually apologized. I'm sorry it took me so long to get back to you, but we moved and I just got your letter. And I was like, Dude, I wasn't expecting you to write me back in the first
I love
place.
that. I hope you said that to him. Dude, come on, dude. Judah Ben-Hur, come on.
What about the accent? I chose the easy answer. He's very well educated, mostly in the US. He comes from a bilingual family. He speaks perfect English. That was lazy of me and wrong. No one speaks perfect English, and no one who's not been raised speaking it totally without an accent. Henry Higgins was right. A speech expert can tell within miles where a man was born. If I had the part to do over, I'd try for the faintest stroke of emphasis and rhythm you might hear from an internationally educated Mexican with the background we'd invented for Vargas, instead of my native Midwestern Yank. It would have been a good creative challenge and right for the part. I don't recall that I shared this internal debate with Orson. Had I undertaken the accent, I have no doubt that he would have supported me. That I was considering it may never have crossed his mind. He was buried deep in the prep for his film.
Interesting. It's essential to the storyline that Vargas speak better English than Quinlan.
Yeah.
I mean, that's essential to the story, but it would have been nice if he had an accent, you know?
Yeah.
And no offense to Charlton Heston, and you've heard me, Anne, say a million times that imagine if Ricardo Montalban had played that part.
Yeah.
I mean, he just would have had it naturally. It would have just been the natural thing. Yeah. But as I've said every time I introduce the film, don't complain about Charlton Heston, because if he's not in the movie doesn't exist. So
yeah, I mean,
that's it.
That's correct. Yeah, and I think too, it's kind of interesting too, because like, as you all know, I've been watching a lot of Danish films. And one of the things that I find really interesting in all this different stuff is when they do speak English, like, you know, Mike Mikkelsen has a very heavy Danish accent. And then like another actor, or Thompson, when he speaks, he sounds like Malcolm McDowell. He has like this like British accent. And then other people I've seen, like another person had a total American accent. Another woman speaks with very light Danish accent. So yeah, I mean, it also really depends on the person and where they learned English. If it was the US or the UK, you know, that makes a difference.
Yep. Well, this is a little off topic, but I just introduced a film for Noir Alley. It'll be coming up later this year, with Robert Preston making the film in England. And I noted how interesting it is that when English actors come to America, they can do any American dialect almost flawlessly. But when American actors go to England, do not try to do the English accent. They don't even try. You know, like Robert Preston, they had to make up that his character was from Canada.
Yeah.
Or something, so that he didn't have to do the English accent. And that's all because those British actors are trained at the Royal Academy of Dramatic Arts, and they know how to use their voices, and they have incredible ears, and they're trained like that. And most American actors, especially back in the day, were not trained like, you know, were not theatrically trained at a school. You know, they just, you know, you're not going to see John Garfield trying to do an English accent. Yeah. It's just not going to happen. Yeah. So anyway.
But I would say though, sometimes though, I mean, I think some British actors could do good at American accents. It is not universal, because the British make the same mistake that Americans tend to make when they try to do an English accent, is they don't do an actual regional accent. So, I mean, there's people like Brian Cox, who's friggin' Scots. Yeah. And he can do any accent, but he always does a specific regional accent when he does an accent. Right. You know, and that's why he's really successful at that. And I honestly think Australians are the best at doing accents. Yeah, and I think part of that is because when they're trained to act, they also, there's just a lot of pressure on them to be able to do British accents and stuff like that. So I really think Australians really have an ear for it too.
Interesting. Well, we got all of that out of Charlton Heston not doing a Spanish thing. So
okay, onwards. This is from Alan. Didn't Burt Reynolds do some pictures that could be categorized as noir? Sharky's Machine comes to mind. By the by, was at Hollywood Forever Cemetery a few weeks ago. At Burt's grave, there was a huge display of roses inside a big wooden heart-shaped container. The grave only said Burt Reynolds. Were you a fan of Burt's acting?
Oh, I liked Burt Reynolds. You know, I thought he was good. I liked him. You know, I loved him in Deliverance. He's fantastic in Deliverance. But, you know, I liked him when he did all that light stuff, you know, WW and the Dixie Dance Kings. That's a John Avildsen film. That I really liked that movie.
That's a great movie.
Yeah, you know, Connie Van Dyke. You know, I mean, I liked him. But you know, those crime movies he did, you know, like Sharky's Machine and all that stuff. They don't strike me as being very noir because he was an action hero. He made crime movies in which he was an action hero, and they weren't. You know, that's like the difference between like Clint Eastwood doing the Dirty Harry movies. I don't, except for Dirty Harry, which I kind of consider borderline noir.
Yeah.
The rest of those I don't really think of as remotely noir. But then he'd do a movie like Tightrope. That's a Clint Eastwood doing a noir film, but I don't recall Burt Reynolds doing those. You know, he was kind of a comedic action hero. You know, I think of Burt Reynolds like The Longest Yard. To me, that's a Burt Reynolds movie, you know?
Yeah, there's the one, I can't remember which one it is though. And Rachel Ward is in it. And she's like the mistress of an older man. And, you know, Reynolds kind of is like, I guess, tracking the guy. I can't not remember the name of the film, but that one was a little more, had kind of a neo-noir feeling to it.
Interesting. Was that, and I think he did one or two that were like Elmore Leonard adaptations.
Oh, that may be what it was.
You know,
yeah.
Like Stick, I think, was one that he did. I think.
Yeah.
Anyway, I like Burt Reynolds. I always did. You know, he had real charisma and a way about him on screen, and he was a better actor, I think, than he got credit for.
Yeah, I think that's true. And P.S. Eddie. Has Eddie ever been to my town, Anselmo? Anselmo. I'm sorry.
Oh, San Anselmo. Oh, yeah, of course. Of course. That's like Fairfax. It's near Fairfax, California. And my parents used to have a home in Woodacre, which is right past San Anselmo and Fairfax. And then Woodacre was this little tiny town stuck in there, and you know, but that was a long time ago. Some of my earliest memories are in that property in Woodacre. So yes, I do know San Anselmo.
This is from Arthur. Wish you'd show Elevator to the Gallows again on TCM. Would love to see it in prime time. I feel like that's shown on prime time. And
well, we showed it kind of late. We showed it on TCM Imports. Alicia Malone and I introduced it, but who asked this question? Was there a name?
Arthur in New York City.
Arthur, there's these things they've made called DVRs, and I suggest you record the show and then everything is prime time. Because that's the thing, I have no control whatsoever over when something is shown on TCM. I can suggest they're showing something, but I have no control over when it's shown. Look, my show is on midnight East Coast time, right? And I'm like amazed that people stay up to watch it. It's like, who would do that? But I guess there are people who like their noir at midnight. So it's always possible, Arthur, that we would show Elevator to the Gallows again. It won't, if it was on prime time, it wouldn't be on my show, so I wouldn't be introducing it. So I don't know how hard I'm going to campaign for that. And there are other foreign noirs that you know, that's how it always works. If I show something a second time, people say, you must be running out of things to show. What's wrong? You know? Yeah. So encore performances can be risky, but we'll see. Never say never.
And this is from Scott. Would the Whistler film series starring Richard Dix be considered film noir?
And take it away.
Yes, absolutely. And by the way, if people haven't seen those films, they really are terrific, and they're taken from the Whistler TV series, radio series, which was a huge radio show and really worth a listen. Those stories are really good. And yeah, I mean, I just think they're great low budget noirs. I highly recommend them. Richard Drix is great.
The scripts are terrific, and you know, there's some really good direction in those things. So yes, it's like a, you know, it those films were kind of predicting the Twilight Zone and Alfred Hitchcock Presents and that kind of stuff. That's sort of what it was like. It's almost like an anthology series, you know. And they're terrific. So there's a whole, I have it here, so, you know, a box set of all the Whistler movies, which I would highly recommend. Yeah,
it's a nice set. And because the Whistler was just basically sort of like, he sort of narrates the story a little bit in the original radio series. And there was quite a few different radio shows that had that sort of format. And once again, Jack Benny did a really, really funny parody of the Whistler. So if you're an old-time radio fan, search that on Google, because of course he's the fiddler because of the violin. Oh my God.
Okay, I'm gonna listen to that when we're done. I'm gonna have to go see that. The Fiddler. That's great.
Really, really funny. So this is Dear Noir Guy and Miss Anne. Tell us what are a few of your favorite quotes from films noir. Then I will tell you mine. So do you want to do yours first and then we'll do hers?
I don't even know where to start. I mean, obviously our favorite, because we use it for the catchphrase of the foundation, is when Paul Henry tells Joan Bennett, you know, you're a bitter little woman, and she says, it's a bitter little world. I mean, that's fantastic. But there are so many, you know, Jan Sterling and Ace in the Hole, I don't pray, kneeling bags my nylons. That's fantastic. You could almost go through the whole history, like every year, you know, the Maltese Falcon, you know, you've got, you know, I didn't believe you. I believed your $200. You know, I love that line.
Yeah.
Or in Laura, there's a great one where Clifton Webb says, "Have you ever been in love, detective?" And he says, "Yeah, Dame in Washington Heights once got a fox fur out of me." That's a classic. So there are a few that I love.
Yeah, I mean, my all-time favorite still from the Maltese Falcon. When Joel Cairo's been kept up by the police all night, going over and over this ridiculous story that Spade fed the cops, and then he encounters Spade in the lobby of his hotel, and was like, you know, why do you pick such a stupid story? And he's like, well, you know, if I did that, blah, blah, blah. And he goes, you always have a smooth answer. And Spade just says, what do you want me to do? Learn to stutter? And I am still waiting for the moment that I can use that in my personal life. I have that scrolled away. I have no idea where I'd be able to use that.
Yeah, I know.
All-time favorite line.
Yeah, but you have to do it perfectly, because it can't sound like you've been waiting to use it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just got to come out naturally, you know.
He's so nonchalant. He just like throws it out there and just reminds you. And it's so indicative of his character.
No, that's why Bogart was so great, because he could say stuff like that, you know. And it's like Mitchum in Out of the Past, when he says, well, then build my gallows high, baby. And it's like, who could ever say something that purple and trashy? Build my gallows high, baby. Well, Robert Mitchum can say it and somehow make it sound like something he would say.
Yeah.
Okay, so what are her favorites?
Hold on, I gotta say, because I gotta give a shout out to one of my favorite quotes from Laura. I must say, for a charming, intelligent girl, you certainly surrounded yourself with a remarkable collection of dopes. Sorry, I had to throw that one in there.
There's a lot of good dialogue in what is Waldo's thing? Oh my God, he has that one great line. I've never found a subject quite so intriguing, you know, when he's referring to himself. You know? Anyway.
So hers are, she crumpled at his feet in a heap of lavender chiffon, which is from a Lucille Fletcher novel. And
She crumpled
Then,
in his feet in a heap of lavender chiffon. That's good. I like that.
and then you'll know which one this is. We're sisters under the mink, which is a
Yeah,
great line.
that's Gloria Graham to in The Big Heat.
Yeah.
Yeah, to Bertha Nolan.
Oh, that's good. Okay, this one comes from Kyle. I've always wondered why only a handful of actors were credited in films of the noir era. I have read speculation, but none of the reasons made sense. The Blue Gardenia offers an example. Norman Lavat plays a bartender. He had a fairly expensive speaking role to be a bit player and made a phone call to alert the police to come to the diner and arrest Ann Baxter. My take would be that if one had a speaking role beyond just saying hello, shouldn't they get a credit? I assume they were paid. Any thoughts?
Oh my goodness. Back then, very few actors got credited, you know. It was sort of up to the studio and up to the producers of the film.
Yeah.
I don't think that agents had the power back then that they have now to like put it in the contract that says, you know, the name has to be on the film. You know, I mean, if you were a star, you did that, and they would specify the size that your name had to appear in relation to the title of the film and all that. But I mean, it's rare to see more than eight to 10 credited actors on a crawl at the end of the movie. You know, it wasn't really until when would you say, like the late 50s or early 60s, that you started seeing longer crawls where everybody who had a speaking part got listed. But before that, it was just, you know, it just wasn't much. And I don't think the actors expected it.
Yeah.
You know, especially if you were an actor under contract to a studio.
Yeah.
Right? You were a contract player at the studio. It's like, hey, we pay you. You know, I used to work for a guy, a publisher at a magazine where I worked, and people were like, you know, I would like something, you know, a little bit of a reward. He goes, you get your reward every 2 weeks, Ace. It's called a paycheck. So I think that's the way these actors operated as well.
Yeah.
Now, of course, it's endless.
Yeah.
I mean, it's incredible when you watch movies now. It's like, and I want to know who set the rule that once the main end titles are over, sometimes it's the very first thing you see is unit production manager.
Yeah.
Like, why is the unit production manager the first credit you see on the list of all the technical credits? Like, that's so amazing to me. But I guess that union, I don't know. Maybe somebody here can answer it, but it kind of fascinates me, you know?
Yeah.
But there's no set rule for putting credits on a movie. You know, you can put them at the beginning, you can put them at the end, you can do them in whatever order you want. I don't think it's only for big stars that have it written into their contract how their name has to appear on the film.
Okay, this is from Kristen in Seattle. Eddie, apologies if you've been asked this before, but what film noir performances do you think should have been nominated for an Academy Award? I am thinking Dan Duryea for The Burglar, Humphrey Bogart for In a Lonely Place.
Not in a million years. Not in a million years.
No, that never would have happened, but it's a great performance.
It's an independent film that, you know, it's not going to happen.
Humphrey Bogart in A Lonely Place, Gloria Graham for Human Desire, at the very least for surviving the abuse her character gets from everyone, and Barbara Stanwyck for pretty much everything. No kidding. Do you have any favorites?
Quite. And the question was nominated for an Academy Award?
But what film noir performances do you think should have been nominated for an Academy Award?
I don't know. The ones. First off, there's a style of acting that I love that noir is all about, that was not the kind of acting that got nominated for awards. I mean, you're never going to see, I was going to say you're never going to see Robert Mitchum, but he was nominated for Best Supporting Actor for The Story of G.I. Joe. But I know this isn't the answer that you want, but I don't care about the Academy Awards. I really don't. And I don't think about it. You know, you will notice that when I mean, this last week I did mention the Oscars in my introduction to Possessed because Joan Crawford was nominated for the Oscar for that and didn't win.
Yeah.
But I only mentioned it because in honor of Robert Osborne, because he had pointed out that he thought that was one of the great robberies in Oscar history, that she should have won that Oscar.
Right.
But I don't really follow it. I couldn't tell you in terms of noir what was nominated for Oscars and what wasn't. I know that Robert Ryan was nominated for Crossfire, and I think Gloria Graham was nominated for Crossfire for supporting actors. But beyond that, I really don't know. I think Louis Calhern and Sam Jaffe were both nominated for The Asphalt Jungle.
Good.
And they kind of canceled each other out, I'm sure. But, you know, if you're asking me what do I think are the great acting performances, I'll tell you the biggest crime. Okay, I have it. The biggest crime in all of them is that Edward G. Robinson was not nominated for Best Supporting Actor for Double Indemnity.
Wow.
That's the biggest rip job of all of them. That's the one.
Yeah, that's a good choice, Eddie, because that was magnificent.
I talked my way through to an answer.
See, you did it. Okay, and this one's from William. According to Alfred Hitchcock, on an old interview with Dick Cavett, the master always wanted to have a scene in North by Northwest where camera slowly follows the making of a car on an assembly line, in which finally the car drives out of the factory and a dead body falls out of the car. It was never filmed to his regret. Sounds like a perfect set piece for noir. To your knowledge, has any film used this brilliant idea and put it on film?
I haven't seen it.
Okay, here's the thing. The opening of John Carpenter's Christine.
Is that what happens?
Very, very, very similar, because Christine, the car of the film, is being worked on, and it's Bad to the Bone is playing, and it's being worked on. And when it gets to the end of the line, the guy is working on it is killed. He comes out, he falls out of the car.
Okay. Well, there you go. That happened.
Yeah. Yeah, but I don't think that Carpenter knew about Hitchcock saying that. I think it's just.
I
would think so. Well, maybe.
I absolutely think so. I mean, you could, if that scene is not in Stephen King's book, then I think it can safely be argued that Carpenter or the screenwriter, because that story is told in the Hitchcock Truffaut book.
Yeah.
It wasn't just on Dick Cavett. He actually.
Oh, okay. Oh, it's in there?
He tells that story in this book. And so I'm, you know, and you think John Carpenter's seen a few Alfred Hitchcock movies?
Oh, yeah, definitely. So, yeah, that's entirely possible. Yeah. Absolutely. Plus, because what he's basically trying to do was to condense down a considerable amount in the novel about the car's past. And it was just his way of telling that in one sequence.
Excellent, Anne. That was like, good one. You pulled that one out. Excellent.
And this is
because you're kind of a John Carpenter fan.
I'm a little bit of a John Carpenter fan. And this is from John. I can imagine many questions to ask, but I think the best of the neo-noir movies for me is Lawrence Kasdan's Body Heat, because it captures classic noir themes so well and translates them to the modern era, which is not easy to do. I wonder what your thoughts are about the movie.
Here's another announcement for this week. In July, starting on July 1st, I will be presenting neo-noir films every Friday night on TCM with Ben Mankiewicz. The two of us are doing it together, and Body Heat is definitely one of the films we are showing. And I like it. I like it very much. It of all the films in the series, except for a couple we're showing on the opening night, Harper and Warning Shot. Except for those two films, Body Heat is the one that most feels like an old noir film. Forget the nudity, forget the bad language, forget the color, all that stuff. But that film, Lawrence Kasdan got it. He got the beats, the pace, everything is right about that. That is a I don't think of it as a neo-noir. I just think of it as film noir.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there, I like it. And you'll have, and then you watch the show. I'm not sure which night it's on. I think it's like the 15th of July or something. And you'll hear a lot more about what we have to say about that movie.
Yeah, and like I said, I mean, our TV listings page on filmnoirfoundation.org, we have a TV listings page, and we always run all the noirs and neo-noirs playing on TCM every month. And I'll be boxing the ones that Eddie and Ben are co-hosting, just so you know, just like we do with
Fantastic. It's 3 movies every Friday night in July. So it's 15 movies total because there are 5 Fridays in July.
Okay, and this is from Al and Randall. This is a multiple part question. Best noir shot on location in San Francisco.
I have to say Vertigo.
Yeah.
And I also have to say Woman on the Run.
Yeah.
Those are my 2 San Francisco noir films that where I feel the city that's my hometown. I feel it in those 2 movies.
And best noir shot on location in Los Angeles.
Chinatown. I mean, I know it's not an old noir, but because they could use LA so well. And then, you know, that's like my idea of Los Angeles. The mythic Los Angeles is the one in Chinatown. But then there are other films that use LA in a different way. And a couple of the neo-noir films are really good. Like there's a movie called City of Industry that uses LA, and Friedkin's To Live and Die in LA.
Yeah.
It is like the nasty, ugly LA that has no landmarks, nothing glamorous about it. It's like the industrial wasteland, the Inland Empire part of LA. And of course it has the chase on the freeway, which is like a classic LA thing.
Yeah.
So, you know, and of the older films, I would say probably Crisscross, because I love all the stuff set in Old Bunker Hill and the stuff downtown. So those are my choices for LA. And
which city is a bit more noir than the other? Asking for a friend.
They're very different because, you know, LA is a sprawl and San Francisco is concentrated, right? Because San Francisco is like so tiny and surrounded by water, and LA is just this vast sprawl. So I can't say. They're noir in different ways. You know, plus San Francisco has the fog, which you do not get in LA, but LA has the crazier people. Yeah. You know, because it's like Day of the Locust. You know, they want everything so badly, and the quest for the brass ring. You know, you go to San Francisco to just kind of chill out and be an artist and be a bohemian. You know, that's the thing. And it's like you can be yourself in San Francisco or create a whole new identity for yourself. But there isn't the desperation that there is in LA, where people, I think, go crazy because of it. So maybe I'm talking myself into LA being the more noir of the 2.
Okay.
I mean, in terms of atmosphere, it's San Francisco. In terms of the psychology, it's LA.
I like that. This is from Russ. Please share some info on your personal poster collection and on noir posters in general. Which ones do you have displayed? Do European noir posters showcase the feel of the films better than the US ones?
Okay, I'll try to be quick on this. I think over my shoulder, you can see one right there. That's an Italian locandina poster for the movie Tomorrow is Another Day. I love the artwork. It's kind of not representative of the movie. Italian posters always have blood in them. Even if there's no blood in the movie, they put blood in the poster. It's weird. It's like and you know, and that's an older poster from like pre-Giallo films and stuff. So Steve Cochran is lying there shot, and there's like blood running down the poster. And, Ruth Roman is not in that black dress with the blonde wig in the scene where he gets shot in the movies, but she is in the poster. So I like the creative liberties the Italians take with the posters. I have a lot of posters. What can I tell you? And these days I tend to look for foreign posters of American films, or noir films made overseas that have really great posters. I can't get near price wise some of, like, I can't afford like a This Gun for Hire poster or a Double Indemnity poster, and I'm just not going to pay that kind of money. I do have an original one sheet for Out of the Past. That's the key piece in my collection. But I do like buying the foreign posters because you're very surprised by the art, and also the artists had more respect overseas because they actually got to sign their work.
Yeah.
And they had very distinctive styles, and it's like the public knew it. Like some of the Italian and French poster artists are just extraordinary. Anselmo Ballister and Luigi Martinati and Capitani. These guys are fabulous artists, and they have very distinctive styles. And in America, unless it was, like at RKO, William Rose did the Out of the Past poster, and he did the Born to Kill poster, but he didn't sign them. You just have to have done your research and know that was the artist. The only guy who got to sign a film poster that I know of was Norman Rockwell. He did the poster for The Razor's Edge, and it was a Norman Rockwell painting of Tyrone Power. But otherwise, nobody knows who these artists were. I mean, you have to do the research. But anyway, that's that.
The Wikipedia page for DETOUR says that at the end, Al Roberts imagines he is arrested by the cops while walking on the road. I've seen it several times and never thought that. Sure, the movie is told in flashback, and some people may view Roberts as an unreliable narrator, but I've never once thought he was imagining his arrest. Am I wrong?
Well, you can imagine, you can think of it any way you want, but I mean, I've always taken that as a flash forward, not a flashback, but a flash forward of what he was expecting when he left the Nevada diner, right? He explicitly says, but someday, because, blah, 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 fate for no reason at all can stick out its foot and trip you up or whatever that last line is. There's also an argument to be made that the shot had to be included because of the production code, that he had killed Vera. Sorry if you guys haven't seen DETOUR. He had killed Vera, and he had to be punished for it. So in a very creative thing, they did a flash forward to him imagining his eventual arrest when it wasn't actually happening. Because when you think about it, if they were going to arrest him, why wouldn't they have the cops come into the diner and arrest him, which is a more typical scene, right?
Yeah.
But he's saying, one day I'll be out there on the road, and then the police car pulls up, and he imagines it happening to him. So that's the way I've always interpreted it. But then he's a tremendously unreliable narrator. But who knows? It's fun to speculate about these things. I think sometimes people love these movies so much, and they watch them so many times, that they have to start thinking of new things to conjure up. Al actually is lying through the whole movie, right? Like he actually killed what's his name? The guy who gives him the ride.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people are like, what's the deal with that guy? I mean, he just falls asleep or something, but it's all set up. He's got the pills. He clearly has something wrong with his heart. He's taking nitroglycerin.
Yeah.
And then he just like passes out, and he falls out of the car, hits his head. But then a lot of people are like, oh, that's BS. you know, Roberts killed him and traded identities with him and then pretends that he didn't when he runs into Vera. And it's all speculation. It's all good. There's no right answer.
Why do you think it is about this film, though, in particular, where people feel like he's an unreliable narrator? Because typically there's a ton of noir films with narration like that, and no one thinks it's unreliable narrator unless
because I'll tell you why. And I mean, that's a good point. It's because of this very ambiguous ending. Exactly because that thing with the cops is a flash forward, people have interpreted that as his narration is his practicing his alibi for the eventual confrontation with the police. When he is tracked down and arrested, he's in that diner rehearsing his story in his own mind. Like, this is what I'm going to have to say to get away with all of this. Right. Yeah. And of course, who would make up a story that insane? Yeah. You know, then she told me that the guy had a son, you know, and I was going to be the long lost son, and we were going to get the money and all. And it's like, it's not a good story to make up. I can think of a few other ones, Al. Yeah. You're not the sharpest tool in the shed.
Yeah.
You know, and also because the death by phone cord is so preposterous.
Yeah.
That it's like a guy saying, "Oh, I didn't strangle her. She got the cord wrapped around her throat by accident, and you know, I was just pulling on it in the other room, and oh my God, then she was dead." And it's like, he choked her, he killed her.
Yeah.
You know, yeah. I mean, you can go with it either way. Yeah. I mean, and boy, I'll tell you, you want to talk about performances that need an award. Some people think Anne's a little over the top in that movie, like it's too much.
No.
She deserves an award just for being able to pull off that stunt with the phone cord, like playing drunk, and then she does it. And, you know, Ulmer's directing her and says, "Now, Anne, you know, you have to get the cord around your neck, you know, and it has to look believable, and you have to fall on the bed in just such a way." And she's like, "Holy cow, that was a tough little bit of business to pull off." Yeah. She's great. She's great.
Yeah. And also, I mean, I think I don't find her performance over the top at all. I mean, I really like that performance because she really portrays a woman that's lived on that edge, right? Of really, life is just fucking a constant, pardon my French, it's just about survival. You know what I mean?
Totally.
She's the kind of person you know, and she actually gets an opportunity that maybe she can actually like get out of survival mode and like have a life of more.
Well, I think Ulmer understood that he wasn't making realistic movies.
Yeah.
You know, the movie's 68 minutes long. It's got to play like a nightmare. And, you know, Anne would tell me that he just kept saying more.
Yeah.
Louder, faster, more shrill. You know, she couldn't push it enough for him. Yeah. I mean, and finally she did, but it's clear that he was not looking for anything remotely naturalistic or realistic. He wanted her to be the harpy from hell, you know, and she nailed it. Yeah. She's fantastic in it. I guess I just have some sympathy for her character, though.
Totally. I really do. I mean, I don't think it's she's mean as hell, but I'm not without sympathy for that character because you just tell what her life has been like up until that point.
And she's got the consumption, as they said.
Oh, that's right. She does have the consumption. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Chekhov's cough.
Yes. I'm going to kick off anyway. Yeah, it won't miss me, Roberts.
Okay, this one is from John. Eddie, by all appearances, you have a superpower to absorb and recall information. Can you share what it's like to have these skills, and do you have any unusual stories that relate to them?
I hate to say this, but that superpower is waning. I had that superpower about 20 years ago. I mean, I could remember everything. right? And people used to comment on that, like it was a parlor game, like, you know, what movie was this or that, you know, and I was the king of Trivial Pursuit and all that stuff. But I don't really have it anymore. I mean, I have to write stuff down now, and
Oh.
I mean, I'm not alarmed by this, but you know, my short-term memory is not what it used to be. Like, if you asked me right now, so what are the 15 movies you're showing in July on TCM for that neo noir series? I couldn't tell you.
No.
I can't remember. I cannot remember what they are. Like, and Ben and I were laughing because every time we would get on the set, you know, and we'd do one night at a time, and we'd be like, what are we introducing again? You know, what are the 3 movies we're doing right now? We couldn't remember 3 titles, you know. We could talk about them once we were reminded of what the movies were, but trying to remember them. And I got to tell you, Anne, I'm having dinner with people the other night, and they're like, so what have you seen lately that's good? And I'm like, I don't know. I can't remember. I mean, it's not because I didn't think it was good. It's just like, I can't remember, like last week, what I watched on TV. I can't remember. But if you ask me, like, you know, those quotes from those noir films, I can remember all that stuff. You know, I can remember the year of every noir movie made. Yeah. But you know, what did I have for breakfast yesterday? I don't know. I can't remember. So I appreciate that this fella thinks I have that superpower, but trust me, there's a lot of kryptonite around here these days because the memory is just not what it used to be.
Yeah, and I definitely noticed because I worked in video stores for years, and I was like that person you could come and ask, give me a vague description, I could tell you what the movie was, and then people would say, "Oh, have you seen it?" I'd say no, because it was just like that constant thing where I was just aware of everything in our library and stuff like that, and you know, my parents would always ask, start to say, "You remember this?" and this, something like that, and I can't do that anymore. Like the way I was able to before, where I could just pull out what something was from a couple descriptors. It's just like not there.
You know what's interesting is maybe the steel trap memory for dates and titles and all has had to make room for a different kind of thing, which is because, you know, when I do the Noir City festivals, you may have noticed this. When I go out to introduce a movie, I don't have any notes or anything.
Yeah.
Right. But I have learned a system for remembering what it is that I'm going to talk about.
Huh.
Right. And so that's like a practice thing.
Yeah.
Like, you know, thinking it through, making notes, and then saying, I'm going to talk about these 6 things. And then the 6 things are all reduced down to 1 word.
Yeah.
Right. And then you just remember those 6 words.
Yeah.
Right. And then you just go, what was the next word? Oh, yeah. And when you remember the word, you remember the story that goes with the word. And then that's just how you do it. And, you know, I should never have to look at a piece of paper to see what was I going to say next, because it's like, you're just going to talk about these 5 or 6 things.
Yeah.
So that's a little memory technique that I use, and I remember stories more than I remember bits of information. If it's a story, I can remember it. I don't know why that is, but you know.
Yeah. And it's really funny too, because I just on Memorial Day I watched all 3 of the Pusher films, because I seen the second one recently, and I'd seen the first one like the year it came out, which was like in the late 90s. I saw it at the film festival, and it was so weird because there was only like 2 things I remembered from that film. One was actually a scene that Moss Mikkelsen was in, where he's trying to do like this roundhouse kick and he injures himself, and it was just really funny. And like seriously, and then the other thing was just this guy who was a drug dealer that owned his own restaurant, and I remember the restaurant. So it's weird too, like that even with stuff I've seen before, sometimes it's just been reduced down to a couple scenes from stuff, and it can just be really, I mean, I mean, those aren't like the big earth-shaking scenes in that movie, but they were really striking character moments. And both those actors are, as I found out recently, are really great actors who have a great body of work and who I've enjoyed in many
Yeah,
others.
you know, it's funny you say that, because like I can remember a movie almost start to finish.
Yeah.
I actually can. I just can't. If you said, what did you watch last week? I can't remember that. But when you say, what did you think of Flickering Lights? I can pretty much recall the movie start to finish.
Yeah.
And like, and all the scenes, and I can recall like the cinematography and the light and the moments and the performance, you know, when he punches the woman in the face, you know, and all that stuff.
That's so startling. Yeah.
It's so startling. And I have total recall of the movies once I watched them.
Yeah.
But it's just calling it up like on demand, like these people who say, do you remember the movie where the head rolls down the street? And it's like, I don't, you know, I don't know. That's just the way it is. So we're actually kind of on time. We're doing good.
We are. Yeah.
So did you see anything good recently? Want to see if you can remember.
Yeah, well, I went and saw Riders of Justice a second time.
Oh,
and I'm actually
heady praise.
I'm gonna actually see it a third time this week before it leaves. So
wow.
that's the most time I've seen a film
That's
in
pretty
a theater.
High praise.
And I do not remember the last time I saw a movie that many times in the theater, actually, to tell you the truth. I mean, like that, like sequentially.
Like sequentially. Mine was Mulholland Drive.
Yeah.
Mulholland Drive, when it came out, I probably saw it like 3 times in a week.
Yeah.
You know, love that movie. I saw a pretty good film this week that I really enjoyed, that I didn't have any expectations for, and it struck me as being kind of a film that is the sort of thing that we pull out now from the 40s or 50s and say, wow, here's a film that really slipped through the cracks. I feel that way about this movie, even though it only came out last year.
Yeah.
Was this thing called Let Him Go with Kevin Costner and Diane Lane.
Oh.
And it's there's a lot of these movies made now in America that are kind of rural noir.
Yeah.
And you know, all those Taylor Sheridan movies, you know, Hell and High Water, or Hell Over High Water, and Wind River, and Winter's Bone, and stuff like that, which is like noir in the heartland. And this was one of those. Plus, it was a period film. It was like late 50s, early 60s, I think. And it was really good. And it was great to see Kevin Costner and Diane Lane older, like as you know, elder statesmen. And Costner was just terrific, playing a very Gary Cooper kind of role, very quiet, very taciturn. And Diane Lane is fabulous in this movie. And it was just really simple story, and I liked it. It gets very violent towards the end, but it was great. And I've always loved Diane Lane. She's always been, to me, like the most underutilized great actress in American movies. Like, why didn't she get like incredibly great parts? You know, I don't know why. Because I could just imagine her playing anything that anybody else played. Like, why didn't they give that to Diane Lane?
No, I think she's because when you said that, I started thinking. Actually, literally, I was just thinking, God, I really like Diane Lane. You said she was in this film, and I don't know why her career wasn't.
Well, I think she got kind of tired of it, like the whole rigmarole of competing for parts and then not getting them and stuff. And I remember reading an interview with her years ago where she said, you know, I'm just retiring. I'm just going to retire unless there's a part that's so perfect for me that I want to do it. And I remember in that interview, she said, why doesn't somebody give me some great like role in a film noir? You know, and it was like, that would have been ideal. And clearly this was a great part for her, and she's sensational. You know, so it's one of those movies. It's just nobody saw it, and I don't even think it got. I don't know if it got reviews or what, but I just thought it was really well done. And you know, eventually when people do career retrospectives of Kevin Costner and Diane Lane, they'll say, "Wow, why didn't anybody pay attention to this one?" You know,
Yeah.
it's fantastic.
What was the name of the film again?
Let Him Go, which we'll put on a triple bill with like Never Let Go, Don't Let Go, Let Him Go. But it has a double meaning. The title has a double meaning. You know, they're after their grandson who ends up with this family of despicable misfits out in North Dakota, and she convinces her husband, who's an ex-sheriff, you can see who plays who, to go and just find out what happened to their. Anyway, I don't want to give the whole plot away, but it's really it's interesting. So the Let Him Go is also like something they would say to the family who has the boy, but also what he would say to his wife, like, you got to let him go. Like, you know, we're not going to get him back. You got to let him go. Yeah. So it's good. I recommend it.
Sounds good.
Okay, I think we're done for this. For this. Now, when will this air?
This will be
post. I mean,
this will be posting. So, okay, this is a little confusing. So, it's posting from a week from the Thursday that we're taping this. So we're taping this on a Sunday. The one we did the week before is playing this Thursday, and this one is so going to be actually.
Okay, so that's like
the Thursday.
Okay, the following Thursday. Okay, so that's good. So people will have a surprise when they watch this, but when you see Noir Alley, you'll get a surprise. That's all I'm going to say. So the next time you check out Noir Alley, you'll get a surprise. So awesome. That's it. So Anne, that was great fun.
Yes, it was.
Great questions from the folks as always. So I hope people enjoyed this installment. Keep the questions coming.
Yeah, yes, please. We really appreciate it, and we've got plenty of material. So don't worry. We will be continuing to do this.
Oh yeah,
for quite some time.
Yeah, it's great fun. So we're. I know some people seem to ask like they thought this was a pandemic related thing.
Yeah.
You know, and I got a funny feeling that it's not. That now that things are clearing up a bit, I don't see why we would stop doing this. So
no, I mean, well, we keep getting the questions, and honestly, I just think it's fun. You know,
it is fun.
I enjoy doing it. People seem to enjoy watching it. So
yeah, so I mean, you know, and we're gonna sooner or later we're gonna make Charlotte a star. You know? She settled down there after trying to steal the whole show at the top, but then I've noticed her lying there the whole time. But you know,
she's
all right, Ann.
Down. Okay.
Until next time.
Thanks,
everybody.
Thank you so much. Thanks for the questions.
All righty.